The aftermath of the storm part 4 begins with a clear morning after the rainstorm fresh. Clean air replacing the heavy heat and dust that dominated earlier scenes. The construction site looks different. The ground is softer, the dust settled, and everything seems renewed. This change in weather reflects a new phase for Luke and Claire. The rain was not just a disruption. It was a cleansing force that cleared the way for something new to grow. As the crew returns to work, there is a noticeable lightness in Luke's demeanor. He moves with a renewed energy, not just because the temperature has cooled, but because emotionally, he feels lighter, as if a weight has been lifted. Claire arrives as well, looking less guarded and more at ease than before. The rain and their shared time together have shifted something between them, a subtle but powerful connection that feels like a foundation, much like the work they are doing at the site. Luke's quiet realization Luke has been wrestling throughout the story with. The loneliness and silence that comes with hard work and personal loss. His job as a construction worker is physically demanding, and often emotionally isolating. He's used to carrying burdens silently. But after the rainstorm, and especially after spending time with Claire, Luke experiences a quiet but profound realization. He is not alone. The walls he has built around himself are starting to come down. This awakening isn't dramatic or loud. It's a slow, steady understanding that companionship, emotional support, and even love are possible for him again. Luke feels the stirrings of hope, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time. Claire's vulnerability and strength. Claire, too, is changed. Her past heartbreak and the guilt she's carried about her failed marriage have made her retreat into professionalism and distance. But through her time with Luke, she begins to reclaim her emotional life. Claire no longer feels the need to hide her exhaustion or sadness behind polished appearances. She allows herself small moments of vulnerability, like laughing more easily, sharing little stories, and even seeking Luke's company during breaks. Her strength shines not in being invulnerable but in embracing her imperfections and opening up. This growth resonates deeply with the audience because it reflects a realistic journey many adults experience. The balance of healing and hope after heartbreak. Shared break. The moment of connection. One afternoon, the crew takes a long break. Luke and Claire find themselves alone near the half-built foundation of the retirement home, the project symbolic of the new beginnings waiting for them both. They sit close, but not rushed, enjoying the silence and the warmth of the sun filtered through light clouds. Claire looks at Luke and says softly, "You know, I think we both needed this break more than the work did." Luke smiles, the kind of smile that's both knowing and tender. "Yes," he replies. "Not just from the work, but from everything else." This exchange is simple but profound. It acknowledges that sometimes the hardest work isn't on the site, but within ourselves, letting go of old hurts, allowing new feelings, and daring to hope again. The promise of tomorrow rather than rushing into romance. The story ends on a note of hopeful anticipation. Luke and Claire don't need to declare love or make grand promises. Instead, they share a look filled with mutual understanding and quiet desire to explore what's possible. The story emphasizes emotional readiness and respect, two mature adults choosing to give themselves a chance to heal and grow together. Symbolism of the retirement home, the construction site, and the retirement home they are building serve as a powerful metaphor throughout the story. In part 4, this metaphor becomes clear. Just as they are laying the foundation for a home that will offer safety and rest to others in their later years, Luke and Claire are laying the foundation for a new emotional home. This home is not built with bricks or concrete, but with trust, patience, and shared understanding. The retirement home represents hope, rest, and a fresh start themes that mirror Luke and Claire's journey. Closing the circle. Story's conclusion brings everything full circle. The construction workers needing a break isn't just a title about physical exhaustion, but about emotional healing. Luke and Claire's connection is about finding peace after struggle and heartbreak. The gentle, slow-burn romance reflects mature love, respectful, tender, and real. The ending invites the audience to imagine what comes next. Not the perfect fairy tale, but a meaningful partnership built on shared experience and mutual respect. Emotional themes and resonance. Healing through connection. The story shows that healing doesn't come from ignoring pain, but from sharing it with someone who listens and understands. Mature romance. Luke and Claire's relationship isn't about passion or drama, but about quiet moments of acceptance and care. Hope and new beginnings. The narrative ends with hope. Not a guaranteed happy ending, but the promise that life and love can still surprise us if we're willing to be open. The importance of taking breaks, both literal and metaphorical breaks, are crucial. The workers need rest from their labor, and Luke and Claire need rest from their emotional burdens. Why this part is important for your audience. For listeners or readers from the US and Canada, where stories of hard work, resilience, and second chances resonate deeply, this ending feels authentic and satisfying. It respects the intelligence and emotional maturity of the audience by avoiding cliches and instead offering a nuanced, hopeful look at love after hardship. The gentle tone, simple yet profound dialogue, and symbolic setting make it feel like a story that belongs on a heartfelt storytelling channel, one that values emotional truth and real human connection. But then, the spell breaks as Jamie calls out from across the site. "Break's over." Claire stands abruptly. Before she walks away, she says, "You guys work too hard." There's a gentle admonishment in her voice, but also something more personal. A subtle hint that she might be the one who needs the break. Luke watches her leave, feeling the weight of her words. The idea lingers. Maybe the construction workers aren't the only ones who need rest, not just from physical labor, but from the emotional burdens they carry. Setting the scene. Unexpected rain and its symbolism. Part 3 begins with a sudden change in weather. An unexpected, heavy rainstorm drenches the construction site. The arrival of rain, unplanned and disruptive, is a powerful metaphor for the emotional shifts occurring in the story. Just as the rain interrupts the steady rhythm of work, it also mirrors the internal turbulence and unexpected vulnerability building between Luke and Claire. The rain forces the crew to stop work and go home early, turning what had been a day of routine into one charged with possibility and uncertainty. This interruption is crucial. It creates space for Luke and Claire to connect away from the dusty, noisy site and the demands of their separate roles. Luke doesn't leave immediately. Instead, he sits in his truck, the windshield wipers marking time like a slow heartbeat. This moment alone, watching the rain, suggests that Luke is not just waiting for the storm to pass outside, but also for something inside himself, a change, an answer, or maybe even hope. Claire's arrival, breaking the routine. Then Claire appears, driving up beside Luke, soaked from the rain, with no umbrella, just her hood pulled over her head. Her decision to come back despite the weather shows vulnerability and spontaneity, a break from her usual composed, professional self. Luke rolls down his window and greets her, noting how wet she is. Claire laughs softly, a sound that feels both familiar and fragile. She admits she thought Luke would be gone already, but he her presence in the rain, unprotected and exposed, symbolizes her emotional openness in this moment. It's a subtle way of saying, without words, "I'm not hiding anymore." Luke's hesitation before accepting her invitation for coffee suggests a cautious optimism. Neither of them rushes into this moment, reflecting their past heartbreaks and the guarded hearts beneath. The intimacy of Claire's home. When Luke follows Claire to her house, the tone shifts from the open, rough construction site to a more intimate, private space. Claire's home is neat but lived-in, filled with books and personal touches. A photograph of her and a dog hints at her past joys and companionships, but also loss, since the dog is no longer there. The home feels like a safe haven, away from the pressures of work and the construction site. It's a place where real emotions can come forward. Luke stands awkwardly in the kitchen, hat in hand like a shy boy, a small detail that reveals his vulnerability. Despite his physical strength and quiet confidence on the job, here he is uncertain, out of his element but willing to step inside Claire's world. Conversation and emotional honesty. Claire breaks the silence, noticing Luke's quietness and teasing him gently. "You don't talk much, do you?" Luke's response that he doesn't see the point in talking, just to fill silence, reflects his thoughtful nature, and perhaps a past filled with empty words. This contrast with Claire, who is used to the noise and demands of city life, reveals their differences and the balance they could offer each other. Claire's question, "So why are you here?" invites Luke to reveal more about himself. He answers honestly. He feels like he's been carrying a heavy burden, and he senses Claire has too. This moment is a turning point. Both characters acknowledge their emotional pain and loneliness for the first time in each other's presence. It's a quiet confession that creates intimacy without forcing it. Claire's whispered admission, "I didn't ask for this," speaks to her feelings of loss and perhaps regret over past events, her failed marriage and the emotional scars it left. Luke's simple response, "Neither did I," confirms that he understands her pain and is not judging her. The physical and emotional nearness. Luke steps closer to Claire, but he does not cross any physical boundaries. This restraint is important. It shows respect and sensitivity to the emotional wounds they both carry. Their closeness, the silence, and the gentle rain tapping on the windows create a powerful atmosphere of vulnerability and hope. The moment is charged with unspoken emotions, a mix of longing, fear, and the tentative possibility of healing. It's as if, without speaking, they are telling each other, "I see you. I am here. I want to try." This subtlety fits the mature and gentle tone. You want a romance built on emotional connection rather than physical passion. Rain as a symbol of renewal. The rain outside becomes a powerful metaphor. It washes away dust, dirt, and grime, just as Luke and Claire's honest connection begins to wash away their loneliness and emotional pain. Rain is often used in literature as a symbol of cleansing and renewal. Here, it marks the end of a dry, hard period in both their lives and the beginning of something new, fragile but full of potential. The soft tapping of the rain against the windows adds a rhythmic, calming background to their unspoken bond. Emotional growth and the promise of something more. This part of the story highlights a major emotional growth for both Luke and Claire. Claire, who has been guarded and professional, allows herself to be vulnerable and to invite Luke into her personal space. Luke, who has been closed off and solitary, responds with quiet openness and empathy. Together, they share a moment of connection that doesn't need grand gestures or dramatic words. It's a moment of real human intimacy, built on mutual understanding. The scene closes with a feeling of hopeful anticipation, the beginning of a slow and meaningful relationship. Why this part matters: it deepens the emotional stakes. The characters move from polite acquaintances to people who are starting to trust and understand each other. It respects the audience's desire for mature romance. The story doesn't rush into physical intimacy, but instead builds emotional intimacy with subtlety and care. It uses setting and weather as powerful storytelling tools. The rain reflects internal emotional shifts and helps create mood and symbolism. It shows vulnerability as strength. Both Luke and Claire reveal their softer sides, showing that opening up is a brave and important step toward healing. Connecting to the audience for your US and Canadian audience, many will recognize the emotional complexity portrayed here, the balance between strength and vulnerability, the fear of opening up after loss, and the tentative hope for something better. This part also emphasizes that real connection often happens in quiet moments shared. Coffee. A rainy afternoon. A simple invitation to come inside. Listeners or readers can imagine themselves in these moments, feeling the rain, the silence, and the slow warmth growing between two people who have been broken but want to try again. The story begins under the fierce, relentless Montana summer sun. Imagine a small construction site set against the wide, open plains with mountains faintly visible in the distance. The heat feels like it's pressing down on everything. The metal tools get hot enough to burn skin. The sweat clings to clothes and skin, and the air itself feels still and heavy. This kind of heat doesn't just challenge the body. It seems to weigh on the spirit as well. At this site, a group of construction workers is busy building the foundation of a retirement home, a place meant to offer comfort and rest years from now. But right now, the workers themselves seem far from rest. Their muscles ache from hard labor, their faces streaked with dirt and sweat, but there's a quiet pride in their work. The project means something, a future for someone else, and so they keep going without complaint. Among the crew is Luke Harper, a man whose appearance tells a story even before he speaks. He's in his early 30s, with broad shoulders and tanned, strong forearms, a man who has spent many years working with his hands under the sun. That Luke isn't just physically strong. His eyes carry a calmness that feels both gentle and deep, like he's carrying something inside that. He doesn't share easily. He's not a man who wastes words, but when he speaks, it's usually something meaningful. On this particular day, Luke is leaning on his shovel, wiping sweat from his brow, lost in thought. His friend, Jamie, the site's crane operator, notices and breaks the silence with a tease. "Hey, Dreamboat, you alive over there?" Jamie's nickname for Luke is playful and familiar. Jamie is the kind of guy who jokes a lot to keep the mood light. He's loud, talkative, and probably the one who keeps spirits high when the work feels grueling. Luke smiles faintly but doesn't answer directly. Instead he says, "Just thinking." Jamie grins knowingly. Oh. Dangerous. Thinking usually means trouble. Or women. This simple exchange sets the tone for their friendship. Easygoing, familiar, with a hint of teasing that masks deeper understanding. Jamie knows Luke well enough to call him out, and Luke's quiet nature suggests he's wrestling with something beneath the surface. Just then, Luke's gaze shifts toward the road. A white pickup truck pulls up, kicking up dust. A woman steps out. Claire Madison. Claire is new to the site. She's a consultant, brought in from the city to oversee the project, make sure everything is on track. She's dressed in jeans and a loose cream blouse, which contrast with the rough, dusty environment of the construction site. She wears sunglasses, but Luke notices the subtle lines around her eyes, the tiredness she tries to hide. Claire is in her early 30s, like Luke. She has a kind of sophistication that comes from years in an office, negotiating budgets and plans. But beneath that professionalism is a softness, a warmth in her voice that hints at a deeper, more personal story. Luke first noticed Claire when she introduced herself earlier in the week. She was polite but businesslike, not one to make small talk, or try to fit in with the crew. There was something about her that made her stand apart, like she was carrying a quiet sadness. Today, as she steps out of the truck, Luke can see she looks tired. Not just physically, but emotionally. It's as if the weight of her past has settled heavily on her shoulders. Luke feels a pull toward her, something unfamiliar and new. He can't explain it, but he senses she's someone who has loved deeply and lost. That sense of loss lingers in the air around her, like the faint scent of rain before a storm. The introduction of Claire creates an immediate contrast to the rest of the crew. The construction workers are used to dirt and sweat, to hard work and blunt conversation. Claire brings something softer, something fragile. And yet, despite their differences, Luke feels a quiet connection, an unspoken recognition of shared pain and longing. At the same time, the story hints that both Luke and Claire have been through hard times. Luke's quiet thinking suggests he's dealing with his own heartache or loneliness, while Claire's tiredness and professionalism mask a personal struggle she doesn't openly share. The scene closes on this note of quiet tension and possibility. Luke watches Claire as she walks toward the trailer, feeling the heat not just from the sun, but from something stirring inside him, a longing for something more than just work and routine. Something that might, if he's brave enough, offer healing or companionship. But neither of them knows what that might be yet. Themes and emotional tone. This first part sets the emotional stage for the story by exploring themes of longing and loneliness. Both Luke and Claire carry invisible burdens. They are physically and emotionally tired, craving a break not just from work, but from the loneliness that shadows them. Connection and distance. The physical setting, a dusty, isolated construction site, mirrors the emotional distance between people who are close yet worlds apart. The arrival of Claire introduces the possibility of connection, hope amidst hardship. Despite the heat and hard work, there is hope simmering beneath the surface. Luke's quiet thoughts and his glance toward Claire suggest a readiness for change, even if he doesn't fully understand it yet. Why this works for your audience, for readers or listeners in the US and Canada. This part draws on familiar experiences. Working hard under tough conditions, feeling isolated, and noticing someone new who unexpectedly touches the heart. The characters are relatable, ordinary people with quiet struggles, and the Montana setting evokes a strong sense of place. The story's tone is gentle and mature, capturing the subtlety of adult emotions like longing, heartbreak, and the tentative first steps towards something romantic. It invites the audience to lean in, feel the tension, and wonder what might happen next. After introducing the setting, the heat, and the unspoken feelings in Part 1, Part 2 opens a window into how Luke and Claire's worlds begin to quietly intersect, like two lines slowly bending toward each other amidst the hard work and dust of the construction site. The new routine Claire, initially just the consultant from the city, gradually becomes a more familiar presence on site. Instead of simply appearing for meetings or quick inspections, she starts spending more time around the workers. The reason she gives is practical. She wants to make sure the budget stays on track, that the project doesn't stray from its deadlines. But Luke and even Jamie notice that Claire often lingers longer than necessary. She walks the site with a clipboard, but there's a thoughtful, almost distracted air about her, as if she's searching for something beyond blueprints and numbers. This subtle behavior sets her apart from the usual consultants who come, make demands, and leave. Claire's presence begins to change the daily rhythm on the site. The men, usually focused on their tasks, start stealing glances toward her. She's not just a figure of authority. There's a softness in her eyes that invites curiosity and care. She is quietly strong, but vulnerable in a way that's immediately recognizable. The coffee break connection one afternoon. During the usual 15-minute coffee break, Luke finds Claire sitting by herself near the site trailer. She's holding a cup but seems distracted, almost as if the coffee is just a prop in the moment. Luke, who normally keeps to himself, decides to sit down nearby. He asks quietly if he can join her. This moment feels small, but it's significant. The coffee break is more than a pause in work, it becomes a moment of quiet connection. The two sit side by side, not quite strangers, but not yet friends. The mountains stretch faintly in the distance behind them, the heat softening as the day moves on. Their silence is comfortable, filled with unspoken feelings, gentle conversation. A window into their souls. Luke breaks the silence, noting gently, "You always look like you're somewhere else." Claire laughs softly, but it's a laugh touched by irony, maybe even pain. "You sound like my mother," she says. That line carries weight. It hints that Claire is used to being told to come back to reality or focus on the present. But what she really craves is to be understood, not just by her mother, but by someone who can see past her professional exterior. Luke asks if her mother's advice was good. Claire admits she received too much of it, suggesting a history of pressure and perhaps loneliness. There's a pause, and then Claire quietly shares something deeply personal. "I was married once." The simple statement hangs between them, as if spoken for the first time aloud in a long while. Luke listens but says nothing. The silence itself is an act of respect and empathy. Claire continues. "He left last winter. Said I was married. To my job more than to him." Her voice cracks slightly, showing the pain beneath her composed exterior. "I guess maybe he wasn't wrong," she adds softly. This admission reveals Claire's emotional fragility. Her tough, professional demeanor hides a woman who has lost love and who wrestles with guilt and loneliness. Luke responds carefully. "Or maybe he just didn't know how to stay." Those words carry so much. A blend of compassion, understanding, and perhaps a bit of his own story reflected back. It's a quiet reassurance, suggesting that sometimes people leave not because love fades, but because they can't face the challenges that come with it. The unspoken moment. Two look at each other. In that glance is a powerful mixture of recognition, longing and hesitation. They don't need to speak. The silence between them says everything. This moment creates an emotional connection that is both fragile and electric. Luke feels it. Claire feels it,